And hello, welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier. Welcome back to Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword. Uh, we are continuing on with our current episode, A Shadow Over the Lands, Part 5. So, getting that. Jumping back to from where we were last time, the crew of the of the Yon rather, an old Klingon Raptor class vessel that had been salvaged and refitted into a slightly earlier departure than planned. You've been on the planet of Glie'daan II for a couple of days, making repairs after the trials of your very first job, one which very nearly saw the ship get destroyed in a terrible crossfire. Um, No sooner have you set down on this world and returned the kidnapped farmers that you had rescued to their planet than you had learned that essentially there is a dark plot at work, something likely deeply dishonorable, something possibly meant to subvert the colonial governor here. A man who has not necessarily earned your respect, but you know that if this plot has already harmed not just the dozen farmers that you rescued already, but has apparently been more widespread. Uh, there have been similar raids throughout the planet for some time now. For what is worse, it's likely that now that the governor has issued a very public complaint to his patron house, that others may swoop in or the house may take action against him. Either way, there's the prospect of this planet becoming a battlefield, a prospect that is hastened by the approach of uh, two vessels coming in at a very modest, leisurely pace, but nonetheless likely to assert some claim or otherwise increase the danger that you're in. You were tasked, or rather, you made the offer to help the rather, an advisor to the colonial governor, an older gentleman by the name of Votos, a Klingon Kuha, or the variant who are best known as being originally portrayed in the original series. They prominently feature the sort of smooth forehead appearance, lacking any cranial ridges. Here for those who don't have reference here. Um, but yes, you accepted an offer to, rather, you offered to assist him in trying to locate some evidence that there's been subversion of the colony's defenses. And that effort, led by the ship's captain, Tabok, has yielded some fruit. Uh, Very specifically, first signs that the sensor net around the planet had been interfered with, that rather data had been sanitized, but that there was a possible nodule that could be accessed, something that would have information about the recent raids. To that end, you went and Tabak led a team to the isolated location, which happened to be near the farm that most of the people you'd rescued happened to live. They were the landing party included, of course, Captain Tabak, along with the ship's essentially hired muscle, Woe, the ship's doctor, Kresic, and a couple of other figures, specifically one of the helpful Klingons from the colony named Dekoff, and then one of the servants of the household, an Aaron Sen woman by the name of Lei Wan. So that away team was ambushed and very nearly didn't make it out alive, but you just managed a fighting retreat and started making it your way back to the starport and the ship. Unfortunately, along the way, they received difficult news from from the Yan. They learned very specifically that the ship was being impounded by order of the colonial governor. Uh, they were in particular interested in Woe because of her. I'm sure that she would pass it off as just gentle ribbing or even. I think the current line is self-defense, but nonetheless, they were alleging that she had assaulted several members of um, the governor's colonial guard, and they were baying
Quite
for blood.
kind of white, kind of quite rightly how so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh, the solution in order to get Woe past this level of scrutiny and not expose the fact that she had also quote unquote kidnapped the governor's chef, but a trill man by the name of Traven Lex was to essentially make it appear as if Woe had died and that you just beamed her back on board. That seemed to satisfy the guards more or less, although probably there were some that just wanted to plunge a knife in her anyway. Um, Nonetheless, you were able to get past that. However, the power dampeners have been left in place, so the yawn is not going anywhere. Um, the rest of you have just kind of been either settling in, recovering, uh, for some of you just trying to continue repairs. Woe is now back to life, but stuck in the ship's medical ward, very specifically in a specialized biobed that can minimize her life signature. So you are doing your best to maintain that cover. And when last we left off, we had concluded with Glie'daan making a breakthrough, with only Traven around to see it, and suffice to say she hit on something very concerning. So, with that, I'm going to ask for anybody who would like a first scene of the day to go ahead and roll me a single d20. Uh, for our purposes here, the lowest rolls will go first. Well, don't everybody rush in at once.
I'm trying to get there, sir. Really, I am.
I mean,
I'm going last.
oh.
I forget how to roll a d20.
Okay, you'll want to go to the gray bar on the left side of the screen and mouse over the D20 looking icon, and then just mouse over the D20 there, just the single one, and click on that, and that will allow it to roll. So yes, we have an 18 from Mr. Korg, a 20 from Traven, a 3 from Raldar. Oh, and uh, yeah, that's right. You can also just type in the \R 1d20 command. A 17 from Tabak, 15 from Woe, and up to you if you
And
want to roll. Go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
In that
High
case,
rollers.
yep. But since this is Star Trek Adventures, for reasons that'll become clear as we go on, the low rolls get preference here. So, Raldar, we are going to pick up with the start of your day. Um, whenever you should wake that morning, the first things you will notice are that the systems are still running on an emergency power system, or like such that any lights or controls will respond. It is only sort of based on backup power. I don't recall if you had installed a heat lamp in your quarters as well, but it is not going to function. Um, some internal systems are still not receiving enough power because of the dampeners, so they have not been removed in the intervening night since you made the show of displaying Woe's corpse.
I see.
So, how would you prefer to start off the day?
Breakfast, probably. Ractachino, if we have the privilege. Probably not.
Hmm. Well, it is likely that Woe. Yeah, I would suspect that when Woe ransacked the kitchen, and given that Traven was there to help, it is very likely that said ransacking would have included the materials to make a Ractagino. Uh,
Oh, good.
so let's put you over then in the mess. Traven, would you happen to be awake at this? Would you have gotten up this morning early enough to cook something for the crew?
Oh, absolutely. Breakfast has to be ready when everybody's awake, so I
Oh,
probably woke up around 4 in the morning.
oh. I could see that. And the way that the way that you're probably conditioned to cook, you've probably used like a quarter of the galley's resources at this point,
Yes.
just out of reflex. So let's move sets then. We'll go ahead and place you in the mess hall. Would anybody else be wanting to just be present in the ship's mess in the morning?
Yes, of course. Actually, having somebody make food, absolutely.
Hmm,
Zach would be there drinking their equivalent of coffee.
gotcha.
That's Rakutino.
I'd say I'd probably be there too. Considering that my home has been invaded,
Yes,
um, probably trying to find places where I can drink my clean water in peace.
indeed. Allow me to move you just a little away from the crew, or better yet, I will move us over to the screen, and then you can move your character at an appropriate distance. All right. So, uh, Raldar, when you enter in, you find that Tabok, Mr. Korg, and Kresic are there. Food, I will say, has not made it out just yet. So everyone is working on their drinks at this point. I would say that unless, oh no, Fractagino would predate the like cultural exchange with the Federation. So, for those taking your caffeine, are you doing it steamed or iced?
Steamed.
Hmm,
Definitely steamed. Early in the morning, steamed.
fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, the so the crew, some of the crew are helping themselves to warm beverages, with the exception, I imagine, of Kresic, who is busy with his clean water.
Very much so.
Yes, perfectly sterile and otherwise, giving him everything that he would need in the morning. Traven, go ahead, and I'm going to say as Raldar enters, go ahead and give me a, let's call this control and science roll with a difficulty of 2.
I can
And
do that. That's my favorite role.
yes, an opportunity to prepare breakfast, which while you are rolling that, you may also take any culinary related focuses, I will say. Um, as a 2d20 system, the Star Trek Adventures system is about rolling 2d20s in order to hit a target number, where each die is evaluated on whether it meets or whether it goes below that level. If you meet the sum of two stats, which are attributes and disciplines, then that is considered a success. With dice generally at a 1 being considered a critical success. There are ways to expand that range if your character is proficient in that skill set. Anything above that is considered a failure, uh, with 20 actually being a critical failure. So kind of opposite to standard D&D rules there. In this particular case, Traven has rolled an 18 and a 4, which means that because the attribute and discipline score was a sum of 15, one of those dice will be considered successful, and since he is specialized as a chef, the dice there is going to be considered a critical success. So that will score you the 2 successes you need in order to pass the task. And would you have a little description of what you are bringing out for everyone's breakfast?
Standard meats and the equivalent that I could get to oatmeal.
So I would imagine that there's some fresh grains of some sort from the planet that would go very well, soaking up, like soaking and baking a little bit, as well as the assortment of breakfast meats in varying stages of cook, depending upon people's preference. So Draven begins serving the bunch. I'm sure a Raktajino is also shortly along for you there, Raldar.
Good, because I have to fix our entire power system to save the... because we had to save the cat.
Raldar, you feel the glare of the Cheshire from Tabok's lap, or possibly jumping up onto the table.
We won't hold that against her. If you tried, she'd claw you to death. I'm not talking Cheshire.
I'm good.
Okay, so any particular conversation any of you would like to engage at this point? You can consider it a few free moments to interact if you wish.
They've not yet taken the boot off of the ship. This is why power is low. Yes, Roldar?
Well, while the power was low, I more or less had to supremely overcharge it to get that transporter to work on our crewmate.
Excellent
So
work.
it has caused damage
Ah,
that needs to be repaired, along with everything else on the ship.
and the helpers from the port have not yet come back.
If they come back, that'll be great, but I won't find out till later.
We need
Or
material.
I shoot the boots off myself.
Well, there's only the one place that can apply it. That's the front landing gear. So hopefully they'll get that off of there. They should have gotten that off during the night. But I think we were slightly lower on their priority list. Bastards.
Well,
Just because
alright.
someone in the crew was slightly overzealous in acquiring materials that we needed. But,
I look at our cook.
We're not holding that against anybody. As I pointedly don't look at Woe after saying that.
I think Woe is still being hidden in the sick bay right now.
Oh, she's still just hiding there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't have to bring her food in a sippy straw.
I don't know. Kresic, was it doctor's orders that her food be blended and
You know what? Let me
We're
let
mixing
me
water.
roll. Let me
We're
roll to see.
oh
We're
no.
mixing water with her dry food.
Ooh.
Oh,
Well, that way you get the gravy.
poor
I'm just
Will.
gonna roll a d20 and
All right.
decide.
And that is a 1.
Yeah. I would have not done that. If we're going with if we are going with Star Trek Adventures dice systems, that's a critical success. So she should be able to eat food on her own
Mm,
without any pre-mastication.
Might just
spectacular.
do it anyway, just for, a joke.
He's too good of a doctor for that.
He does not joke about his medicine.
He doesn't joke. Period.
But yes, the
Serious character.
uh, horrible bedside manner.
Oh, terrible! Actually, the worst.
Yep. In any case, Raldar, this does account for why you haven't seen your ships. Well, actually, yeah, probably still your biggest hired muscle, given that she is a 9 foot tall Kazinti, a roughly feline type being, and has considerably more, not just considerable height, but also quite considerable muscle density. She can very easily give you or Kresic a run for your money in that sense, um, and could very likely put even the 2 Klingons here to shame. Although in combat, you may observe privately to yourself that that is not so much a question when it comes to Tabak.
Thanks. Okay.
Or
All right.
Taba.
Oh, you know what I would do? I would actually um, call over Traven and ask for some kind of food that would be easy to eat because I have another patient in my sick bay with 7 broken ribs.
That is true.
I am glad I made oatmeal-ish.
Yes.
So,
Probably closer to goat meal.
Yeah.
oh dear, oh dear. It's not really grain, or it's half grain, half ground up bone marrow.
Probably something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, Rolnar, that at least accounts for some of the main crew. Although you haven't seen Volpry, the ship's one Rantal, the sort of small, sinewy, white alien that was also a servant to the ship's previous captain before that unfortunate little challenge and duel to the death between him and Tabak. Um, a very jumpy fellow who is at least good with sensors. It also doesn't account for the one Aaron Sen individual you brought aboard, the woman named Liwan. But I'm sure that the personnel questions are the least of your, are they're very low priority for you right now, given the technical situation. So
Mm.
while we have everyone else here, are there other things that any of the rest of you would want to do at this time?
I'm gonna wait until I'm gonna try and get the captain alone.
I gotcha. Um, so breakfast will proceed along for a time. I would imagine Raldar, you'd probably have eaten and finished up uh, before setting about your day. Make sure any caffeine-related headache or anything of the sort goes down, and then get on the move. Mr. Korg, damage control isn't generally your thing, but I'm sure you could find plenty to do. What do you expect you might be up to?
Honestly, I'd be trying to figure out how to improve the scanners so we can see what those ships are. I'm super concerned about them. After all the stuff we've gone through the past few days, I'd rather not have any more surprises. So either reading schematics to try to figure out how things might improve that way, and just stuff like that. Probably be nose deep into a pad.
Okay. Would you keep that in the galley, or would you stick about the? Would you maybe head up to the bridge?
I'd take my coffee up to the bridge.
Gotcha. There's a chair up there that needs to be kept warm.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, now.
Uh, and Kresik, I presume that past a certain point, there will be a refill of water and then a tray of food to be taken up to your patients.
Yep.
Mm.
So, refill my water, look around, down my water real quick, brace myself for returning back to my sick bay, grab my tray, and head out.
Gotcha. So yeah, Tabok, your own meal, I would presume, is likely nearing its end as the rest of the crew are dispersing. And although
I'm
you are
eating slowly. I'm still sore, you know, from
fa-
the.
fair enough,
Yeah.
despite the doctor's stitching and whatever combination of amphetamines, painkillers, and anti-inflammatories he gave you, along with just whatever else that Gorn keeps in his cocktail, you are definitely still feeling a few residual bruises, aches, and just general weariness from the day's previous fighting. Certainly, although it has been stitched up by this time, the areas where the bandits' mek'leth, or whatever these attackers were, the one mek'leth blow that hit you, along with the backhand to the face, has left you with a few more bruises in other places, to say nothing of the long sprint you made after your fighting retreat.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm eating slowly. I'm captain now. I don't have to rush around.
Yep. So yeah, you find yourself alone in the ship's mess, lighting low, and the deck mostly quiet, save for the occasional meow from Cheshire.
It's more of a yowl. Those cats don't just meow.
Fair.
So yeah, wasn't somebody wanting to talk to me?
Yes. Captain, if I might have a word.
I have as many as you need to tell me what you want to say.
I feel like coming on to the crew, I need to earn your respect and your trust. So I hate to be the person that brings trouble, but Liwan discovered something last night and she would not tell me what it was, and she told me to keep it secret, but you're my captain, and I feel like secrets on a ship put more holes than a missile could.
All right. What secret? What did she? Going to sound. What did she discover?
She was doing some
Where did she
electronic
discover it?
on the shoot out of game, sorry. I lost
Bridge.
it.
She was on the.
Bridge. Thank you.
Yeah.
She was on the bridge doing what you told her to do, and then she got real worried and said she found something big, but I wasn't allowed to tell anybody, and she couldn't tell me what it was. It was right after she got done on the computer.
Well, thank you. Good work. Now clean up this mess, and then you'll clean up your mess.
Right to, Captain. Right to.
Grab my drink and a last handful of food, and I guess I'm heading to the bridge because that was the last place I saw her.
All right. And we'll follow back up with Tabok here in a moment. First, however, let's check in on our very weary bunch in sickbay. Kresic, as you arrive, or rather, as Kresic steps through the door, you see that old reliable Gorn doctor stepping through. You were not alone before he entered, as the other Klingon Dekoth, who, as best you could tell, was just a sort of young, tough Klingon that was eager for adventure, and got several broken ribs and other bones for his troubles here. Um, yeah, the
Was he? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is he conscious?
He's probably started grumbling and waking up.
Oh, okay.
I suspect that Kresic has him on sufficient painkillers to keep him from feeling anything too terrible, but he's probably working his way through some grog, or grogginess rather, and at the very least, starting to try and get up from his chair, even if it pains him greatly.
I guess when Kresic comes in, I'm kind of helping him a bit.
I
Take it easy there, mate. Take it easy. Come on. Not too fast. Ah, there's the good doctor.
As I come in with a tray of food, a big tray of food, set it down, grab the goat meal, and take it over to Dekoth and give that to him. And then the rest of it I'll bring over to Will.
Yeah. I'm sure
Yeah, much obliged.
there's a fair bit of relief that they aren't forcing the mush on you.
You know I wouldn't accept mush. Yeah, much obliged, Doctor. Much obliged.
Well,
How's
since
everything going on the crew? No one's really come to visit, except you.
they are. I live here. I don't visit.
You're such a kiddo. I kind of slap him on the back.
Everyone is fine.
I kind of nod towards his quarters specifically, like, can we have a word?
Sure. And I just point to. I go over to Dekoth and I say, "Eat. It will help you heal faster."
The Klingon can just bring himself to nod and sets about working with the spoon that was left for him and starts slowly, maybe slightly methodically, shoveling in bits of food in order to.
I watch him for a little bit. Good. It's soft. Like you. I turn and walk away.
Um, if he had the strength to do anything more than grumble, he might have issued a challenge, but he has none of that right now.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so the two of you wander to a door just off screen and have the relative privacy of Kresic's quarters. I'm sure, still something of a very Spartan setup. You did not have much gear that you brought here in the first place, and some of the parts are now very much a part of the Yan at this point.
Yeah, pick a little bit of meat out from between my teeth, drop it in my plant.
It greedily snaps around the vestige of meat here and begins the slow process of digesting it.
You wanted to talk?
Yeah, why is everyone mad at me?
Who is mad at
Everyone.
you?
I can hear you guys. You all have sparks in your words. Like, she kind of gestures fire a bit.
Hmm. The adventure you went on that got us the cook got people mad.
Why? I didn't kill anybody.
Because Klingons are soft, barbarous thugs who think that losing honor is the most important thing in their small little lives.
So, because I dishonored them, I got everybody in trouble.
I think Klingon culture
And
is not my field.
you think it'd be mine at this point, considering how often I have to deal with them, but they don't make sense. Not a lick of it.
How many times have you destroyed a Klingon
Uh,
and then had them or someone defending their honor return to fight you again?
she like pauses to think for a minute. I want to say twice, but that seems a bit low.
Very low.
Maybe 3 times? 4? I
It
figured it was
happens.
like a.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just thought it was like a family thing, you know. You insulted my father or whatever. I didn't think it was honor.
It's a Klingon thing.
Yeah. So.
They have their ways, and if you do not play by their rules, it causes problems for everyone. Which is why I still don't understand why you joined this ship.
Because I was asked. And you were here. You're my friend.
He doesn't quite know how to respond to that one. So he's
So
just going to
whoa, it's like
ignore
super
that. He's just going to ignore that.
Yeah. For whoa, it's like a super obvious, like, of course I'm here, dummy. You're here. Yeah. Okay.
It's fine. They'll forget. They'll move on. And you got a cook. They like a cook.
I see. I thought it was a cracker snap cook. Like, I don't know what the problem is, to be honest. But I mean,
That will probably be a problem eventually, stealing workers. But
it doesn't count as stealing though if it's willing. You know, if someone's diamond ring pops off and hops in your mouth, can you really say you stole it? You know what I mean?
yes,
No.
because it is a ring.
Well,
It
you
is not
know,
alive.
this person is a person, and they have legs, and he could have escaped at any time. Is my point.
Not according to Klingons.
It's not just the Klingons. I can feel Roldar. He's pissed.
He is a Klingon.
Roldar's not a Klingon.
Practically.
Why do you hate him so much? He looks just like you.
I don't hate anyone on this ship who is still breathing.
Whatever
You are
say.
all my patients, and I will keep you alive even if I have to kill you to do so.
I guess you could say we test your patience.
That was a joke.
I can feel everyone groaning. Anyways.
The ship groans.
The ship takes strain, stress
The only
damage.
reason you don't hear me laughing is because I'm on mute.
She goes for the high five, which fucking, of course, Kresik isn't gonna give her.
Hopefully, the ship will be powered up enough that you can at least leave sick bay so you're not cooped up in here for much longer. Dagoth is terrible company.
No, you're not so bad though. You're
He
here half
leans
the
in
time.
really close. Every time he annoys me, I tell him one more rib was broken.
What number are you up to now?
We're at 7.
And what are you gonna do when he finds out it's not 7?
I doubt he can even count.
This is why you're a good mate. And she like throws an arm over his shoulders. Really, it's just her arm is so high up, it just looks like she's petting his shoulders.
I have to imagine that at least Woe is slightly hunched down, and maybe Kresik too might be leaned forward just a little bit. The show it's not necessarily that in a full ceiling that you wouldn't still have some space, but it's definitely, these are close quarters to be sure.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have research to do.
Alright, I'll be here. Lounging.
Thank you. Thank you for the samples you got me. They will prove valuable.
You're welcome. Have a good one. And she runs and jumps on his bed and curls up.
So, elsewhere on the ship, we would turn to the bridge. Tabak, you arrive on the bridge and find that Vopry and Mr. Korg are at different bridge stations. Mr. Korg is at his usual station at navigation, but it's keyed into other systems right now. Most of the displays are not active or are otherwise in a standby mode. Vopry is having. He's still at his usual sensor post, trying to make something work, but showing signs of frustration. There are no current signs of the Aaron Sen woman on board, or rather, on the bridge.
Right. Where's Lee-Wan? I just say out loud, expecting someone to answer.
I am sorry, Captain. I have not seen her this morning.
What station was she working at?
I believe she was on one of the auxiliary stations on the back.
Look over there. Is the interface still there, where she was plugging that data module in the computer system?
Would that be to say, is the terminal still active or like running, or the panel still open, or were you looking more to see if the data core was still plugged in?
I'm looking mainly to see if the data core is still plugged in.
It is not. The
Is it
panel that
there?
it was plugged into has been replaced, the data core is not present, and the panel appears to be in standby mode.
We'll probably find her on board this ship now.
Running internal sensor sweep, Captain. Just one moment. Says, hunching over. We do still have some power to that, at least, so I can detect her life signs with.
Stop explaining it and just do it.
He hunches down a bit more.
Oh.
And he scores a single success, which is all he needed. Captain, she appears to be in her quarters.
Oh, we've assigned her quarters already. Good.
Well, as I understand it, I'm sorry if I exceeded your orders there, Captain. I just set her up so as to in one of the temporary quarters.
That's fine.
She needed rest.
That is fine. Which one is it? Just rattle off the crew. Just rattle off the cabin number.
Yep, he
And
will supply you a number of one of the cabins on the crew deck.
then I put the cat onto the command chair, still holding my data pad and my Ractagino mug, and head on up to her quarters. I won't take the elevator. I'll just take the gangway. Either way, anyway.
Yep. So, you make your way up to the. You make your way over to like up through the ship, climbing up one level. Once you reach the aft section and find your way into the crew deck, it's a very small, of course, simple set of corridors that take you around the handful of living quarters on the ship. It is not long before you locate the quarters that Leiwan has been set up in. I imagine it's. I don't think that there was much delineation between the different crew quarters here. They're all
No.
fairly Spartan. It's a fairly Spartan setup for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she just goes into one of the open ones, probably something that had been previously inhabited by one of the Koha farmers that you had rescued. And yes, there's a slight tremble in the deck plates, probably as soon as the doors to the bridge close. There's that familiar feel in the deck plates of Klingon opera or Klingon classic rock playing elsewhere in the ship.
Love the idea of Klingon classic rock. That's hilarious.
Hmm. Who put my Vilprian baby gel? I've just noticed this.
I did that a while ago.
Yes.
You made the token smaller?
I did make the token fairly small, but I was just flipping around screens and I was going back to Theater of the Mind, making all the rest of you invisible, and then somebody's put my NPC in a corner. Don't put Vopra in a corner.
Not Vopre. Anybody but Vopre. I love Vopre.
No. Anyway, you stand outside of Leiwan's quarters.
Push the button.
All right. Intercom beeps. There's a few moments a few moments before you get an answer, and then the door opens as she appears to have. She comes in more or less still seeming dressed in roughly in the same outfit she was in yesterday. The room hasn't seen much in the way of change. There's maybe the spare hint that she, at some point in the night, might have stopped by the galley and ate something, or had gotten some glass of some sort of water. Got a glass of water, something like that. But otherwise, there just seems to be, outside of the small bit of food that remains half-eaten on a nearby desk, and the accommodations remain quite Spartan. She only had a small bit of gear with her, which has been set out in an orderly manner. The data core is also present on another table. If you had to guess, if she's been in here, then maybe she slept for a time on what passes for a bed. If she was doing any work, it was unlikely that it was anything too terribly productive. There's no signs of anything that she's taken care of. Yeah, she just stands there, greets you.
What did
Captain
you
Tabok.
find? What did you find?
Oh, I'm afraid that I'm going to need a little more time to untangle that, Captain. It's a bit of a difficult matter trying to tease out what I could from that module, as damaged as it was and as pressed for time as we were.
What do you think you found?
Well, she says a little warily, I might be getting closer to some clues insofar as who was responsible, but it will take some time still to discern it all.
You found something. You said it was big. You would not speak of it. Speak of it now.
She pauses for a moment. It's like, oh, all that talk of honor, and Traven will go blabbed.
Traven is a member of my crew. I am his captain.
And that's an interesting personnel change. I suppose that he'll say exactly that if it comes to, or he'll tell you anything that he thinks will get you on his ship, or on your ship, that is.
You found something. I need to know what it was you found.
She pauses here. Captain, you're not from here. Rather, you're, your dog and your targeting this fight, or like any attachment you have to this situation, is it only goes as far as what'll get you the parts you need and get you off this rock. Would that about be the description that I understand? Does that sound like it matches up?
To a degree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have, however, pledged to find out who and what is raiding the people of this world.
Well, she stiffens a bit more. It's pretty obvious that she is not comfortable in this discussion. Um, Not least because, as a Klingon, there's definitely a power differential here, even if you are not nominally affiliated with or not nominally a part of the governor's command structure. Look, things are hard here on a good day for some of us, and we manage as best we can. We make ourselves useful. But if we aren't careful, things can get worse. And frankly, some of us have to live with what happens here. We don't have the luxury of hopping on a ship, even one as, she gestures, all due respect, dilapidated as this one. Don't get me wrong, I can see the craft that's gone into fixing up this bird, and yeah,
Who is raiding this planet?
I don't know exactly who's responsible for the raids. I only know how they're getting through.
And that is?
They have a very particular set of codes, and that, Captain, is not something that I. You put me in an
they are
impossible.
house. They are house command codes, aren't they?
She kind of paces for a moment. You put me in a very difficult situation, Captain. If I were to speak these words aloud, if I were to come to a decision on this matter, then that outcome affects everyone.
They are house command codes, are they not?
She just stays silent.
You can answer me, or I can have the medic make you answer me. Or I can beat it out of you, though I would rather not do that.
Roll for intimidation, which I'm going to call daring and security, actually.
Great.
And this will be difficulty 1. It is contested against Leewan's presence and command, which is as bad as you feel about the daring and security roll there. She's worse at presence and command.
Yeah, not that bad.
Oh no. So yeah, Leewan is going to roll 2 successes.
And I unfortunately have to bow out for the evening. I apologize. I've
Oh
got to go.
no. This
Have an
is
emergency come up. I apologize.
this is the worst complication.
Yeah. So I will see you guys later. I apologize. I have to
Oh,
go.
okay, acknowledged. All right. Well, we are momentarily losing Tabak for the evening, which means that the scene will more or less close out with the narrative complication, in addition to the real life complication of our captain vanishing for emergency purposes. But we, in all sincereness, wish him well here. Um, with that, Leiwan is going to stand resolute and simply just like the scene is going to close off there with the two of them staring with some degree of tension, but nothing necessarily coming of that. So let us go back around for a moment. I guess real quick we will, if we go back based on the roll order, we've had some scenes for. I think that I had originally skipped over the good doctor. Oh wait, no, that was for a different role. So never mind that. But we'd given the scenes for Raldar, Tabak, and Woe. I suppose we can circle back around. Um, Azek, would you like a scene of some sort just before we pivot on to the next? While we pivot on to the next thing here.
Yeah. Um, I would like to speak to my. I'm going to turn the volume on the ship's the bridge down just a little. For conversing, and I'm going to go over to Vopri and so. Do you have any ideas on how we can boost external sensors? I know getting those boots off is going to be um, number one assistance, but once we do that, yeah, do you think we could like hack into some satellites or something to boost? I'm worried about those two ships coming into the sector. I don't want any surprises for our captain when we actually do get a chance to take off.
Vopri looks back to you with some frustration, although he tries to restrain it a little bit. He's been working at the sensor console even before you got in. Uh, I have been trying to boost sensor range, but with minimal power, either to the sensor array or even the deflectors. It is. I do not know how practical that would be. Hmm. However, I do suppose there is one other thought. There is, of course, some slight risk to it, but it is near as I can think. Uh, hmm.
Risk is good if it helps us out.
Hmm. Well, uh, we may, while our own sensors might not be up to the challenge with current relative power status. What if perhaps we tried to bounce the sensor signal off the satellite grid here, and that we would at least be able to possibly get a ping off orbital sensors, and that would give us some idea of ship proximities and something like that. Give us more eyes, essentially, if we establish an uplink. That it might cause some vulnerabilities, uh, although that we might be able to protect against that. You know, that or if if we speak to the captain, we may well see the urgency and trying to convince him to speak with the authorities, try to get this device off our ship. With the story we have told, and with Woe seemingly dead, maybe just maybe. Uh, I know you were more friend. He seemed more friendly with the advisor. Votos was his name.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm, and that is us. The satellite fix is my sort of stopgap measure right now. Otherwise, I am at the stretch of my ideas.
I wonder if it would be worth it if our engineer could rig something. I know they're knee deep in repairs, so this might be something on kind of a wish list. But rig it so that way we could shut down every non-essential system, even life support to certain rooms, to generate more power for just a short burst. But I'd almost be. I'm not an engineer by any means, but um, it might give us a boost, but I might also overload the system. We'll definitely have to talk to our engineer about that. But
Volpry kind of rubs his hands together, thinking for a moment. Hmm, hmm, might be possible. At least give us more localized scan. We I do not believe we need life support. I do not. We can open vents to outer atmosphere on this planet. I am more confident that there is not microbial life that will uh, cause hallucinations, at least on this planet.
as it kind of groans and rubs his leg, um, remembering the little stabby girl from a few episodes back.
Um,
Um,
the,
we'll definitely have to bring it up to the engineers to see what we could come up with.
uh, Azek, as you rub your leg there, and as after Vopri says this, you note that his face contorts in a very strange way. Um, you notice the corners are very slightly pulled upwards, and you could almost see the beginnings of a little wry smile there.
I'm gonna like as gently as a Klingon can. It's almost like yeah, as brash as a Klingon is. I'm gonna comment on it. It's like, was that a grin? Are you enjoying this in a very friendly manner?
The the creases disappear slightly, and his face goes back a little more neutral. I I hope it was not out of line. Side bit of humor.
Absolutely not. It was perfectly fine. I of all the crew that we have here, I do consider you to be at least a growing friend. Um, you watch my back, I watch yours, and you put up with my music up here, so that's got to earn some points.
Hmm.
Though we should. This is a little side project that I have in mind, but we should figure out a way for the sensors to detect when the captain is coming, so that way that automatically turns the music on and off. So just in case we forget. But that's for another time. Um, Maybe we should figure out how to get these boots off, or who to contact to get these boots off our ship.
That means dealing with Klingons, and respectfully, that is less my department and more yours, I suppose.
Out of character, would he be the one that for the communication stuff, or is that somebody else on the bridge?
Uh, that it would be technically a job he's proficient at doing. However, what is it? You realize that his meaning might be more in the sense of, yeah, sure, he is technically proficient in opening the channel. Does he want to
Uh,
be the one that's speaking to a Klingon? Absolutely not.
yeah, that's what I meant. I meant opening the channel to it.
Yep.
Uh, I'm gonna let somebody else take a scene, but I'm definitely considering popping open that channel to try to get a hold of the magistrate that I need to talk to get these boots off.
Okay. Well then, let's check in with the last member of our crew who hasn't had a scene yet. Let's go down to let's go back down to the galley rather, where the very last role dealt with Traven, I believe, or rather the mess hall.
I'm going to clean up everything, get all the dishes done, get everything sorted back up. And then on a spur of a thought moment, I'm going to go to the medical bay.
Hmm. Then I will give you the opportunity to jump over to the medical bay then. So let's move on over there. Uh, Wherever the medical bay set got put, there it is. So probably a little bit of time has passed, unless the two of you had more to say to each other. Then I would say, Kresic and Woe, you are probably able to, well, you've left the respective rooms, or I guess Woe stayed in the bed. Kresic would probably have come out for the main terminal in order to continue his research. Unless you would like people to be moved around for other purposes. Any
I'm good being there.
Okay. And let me throw Traven out. There we go. Huh, the name tag isn't quite sticking there. I'm going to fix that real quick. And we'll make sure that stays permanent just a little bit later. But yeah, Traven, as soon as you finish up your cleaning, you enter the medical bay. Um, you find, sure enough, the Gorn doctor appears to be working at his terminal. The other occupant who's immediately visible in the main medical chamber the is it appears to be a Klingon man in fairly simple attire, or at least one of the Kaha, the very curiously human-looking Klingons, but who nonetheless they are as much a part of the Empire as those with the more traditional ridges, but They are not widely known beyond the Empire's borders. It certainly would have been a shock to you to see that back in the day. However, the one immediate thing that you know will be of concern after you leave is the empty bowl of oatmeal or its equivalent that he has left behind. But yeah,
Grab that when I leave.
mm-hmm. But you had other reasons to come here.
I knock on the side of the door panel. Knock, knock.
I swivel around. Ah, good. Sit.
Yeah, I figured I needed to visit. I take a seat.
I was going to wait until we left this rock to find out what's inside, but I suppose now is as good a time as any.
There's a surprise.
I don't like surprises.
Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and start scanning him. Is there a roll that I need to do for that?
Yeah, there's going to be a reason and medicine roll, and I'm going to say, only because of some slight unfamiliarity, I'm going to bump the difficulty up to a 3 on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Focus in paranormal phenomena. No,
Uh,
xenobiology. Xenobiology.
Xenobiology would apply. I will. I promise I will consider your focus for the spooky sessions we have come October.
You know I'm just gonna keep asking, even if it's never gonna happen. You
Yep.
know. Just because I have a focus doesn't mean I ever have to use a focus.
Fair enough. It's just part of the character's color. I could
Exactly.
just. Yep. Kresic is like this. This big important character of a sort, and a very proficient medical doctor, and he watched the Gorn equivalent of like Ghost Hunters or Ghost Chasers.
What's that one that what's that Jonathan Frakes did? That's the one that I watched. That
Yeah,
one.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't remember. Does anybody remember the one that one show here? Let's see. It's like Truth or something. Let's see.
Anyways, I'm gonna go
Fact
ahead
or
and
fiction?
Fact or Fiction, that's the one.
Yeah, if you watch it, it's funny because if you watch it at 0.25 speed, it sounds like Jonathan Frakes is drunk. It's great.
I love that show. I remember
Spectacular.
growing up with it.
Yeah.
all right. I am going to make the roll. How does everybody feel about me taking a momentum for this roll?
Go ahead. Feel free. Not a problem.
I cannot.
I will drop one of the momentum from
Excellent.
the pool. I will attempt to take one. I'm going to take away the entire pool and re-deal it out.
Understandable.
While our glorious captain is away, who would like to be designated momentum officer?
Also, I get that momentum back.
Yep.
Whoa.
Kresic.
Well,
Win.
Doctor, you earned the momentum, so I'm just giving it to you for now.
Sure thing.
Yep. So, with the Trill's relative silence after explaining that there would be a surprise to your scan, you just simply start running over the scan. What intelligence you had from the handful of times that a Trill might have been taken prisoner or a corpse analyzed later on does demonstrate to you that in many ways, well, the appearance is certainly humanoid, and they've kind of grown along such bounds, but the interesting thing about them is that they're actually most closely associated, or like there's a distant relation to a particular mammalian offshoot known as a marsupial. Um, And one of the interesting implications for that is that they have abdominal pouches of a sort. Um, Oftentimes, there is there's a component of that you would have hypothesized would come through in terms of the care for their young, but it seems as though this has been co-opted to a different point because you realize that unlike any previous case, you are reading something else as pertains to the Trill. There appears to be,
A parasite,
yes, exactly.
elevated isoboramine levels.
Let's see. The GM's knowledge of that particular bit of lore is not where it needs to be. But if that's relevant to a Trill host, then certainly. Otherwise, I do not believe. I see
Think so. I
nothing
think
about
isoboramine is the
that.
conductive
Then yes,
chemical.
we will go with that. Then yes. In before chat member says, "That's wrong. You're a hack, GM." I am a hack, and I am sorry for that. But yes,
Cook, do not be alarmed. You have developed a gastrointestinal parasite.
That's the
I
Lex
shall remove
symbiote.
it. The what?
The Lex symbiote.
The what?
It's closest. It's like a giant worm that's passed down from generations of Trill. Usually the brightest and the best.
Hmm.
Only 1 in 1,000 get a chance to even be selected for the process.
And they selected you.
Yes, and I passed all the tests and trials.
Hmm.
I am an artist. And a dabble in science here or there.
Kresic is doing his best to not be very excited about having something interesting to study. So he's just going to continue doing scans, trying to get knowledge of this, and he's going to be asking you questions about if there's anything that he is going to need to know when he's inevitably going to have to put you back together again. To make sure that this creature within you is not damaged.
Any type of bug bites or venom is what's going to really put me down. For sure.
Hmm.
You shouldn't have to worry about any parasitic diseases. I'm immune to every single one I've come across.
Because you have a big one that kills the small ones. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I know that my genealogy makes me very hard to work on. I will say the biggest rule about putting me back together, if there is a chance that you could save the symbiote and I would die, do it immediately. The symbiote means more than my life could ever mean.
Understood. It's more interesting than you are, anyways.
The hit or miss. I think we're all interesting.
Hmm. And how long has this parasite been alive?
Oh, more than 300 years.
It's not often I find people older than I am.
Many lifetimes. Many, many lifetimes. 7 to be exact.
Knowledge. 7 lifetimes. Whoa. You must be asleep.
She is
Very
not
well.
totally away.
Very well. So, 7 lifetimes, and you're a slave to the Klingons.
Correct.
Unfortunate.
When I was first captured after being taken from a Romulan slave encampment, is the best way to put it, I was pretty upset. But after a while, I mean, gonna be completely honest with you. The explorer in me just wanted to keep going.
The explorer in you, or the
Yes,
explorer in you?
the explorer in me. My sixth host, Romaldo.
Hmm. This will take some getting used to.
I'm hoping you find out something that I don't know about. I'm
Oh,
None of my hosts are doctors, not one.
you are, I believe you would say, in luck then. I have been needing something else to occupy my time with. Anytime you have the opportunity, I would be willing to examine and test and study this new life.
Sounds good to me. Most of my free time is just cleaning.
Cleaning is good. This ship is disgusting.
You have no idea. Oh my god.
Very good then. If you don't have anything else to do for now, we can get started.
Let's do the tests.
And I'll begin to start doing some tests and trying to figure out some more about how this whole symbiotic relationship works.
I gotcha. So, um, amidst the whole process, as the scans are going on, there's a moment where the doors to the medical bay open up, with as all of you crane over to look, Traven, you see a familiar face, but one with an unfamiliar look, as it is not often, if ever, you've seen anger just burn in Lee Wan's eyes the way that it has before. Uh, she sees you in the amongst a bunch of them.
Oh, good. This saves me a call.
Is he in imminent need of medical care, doctor?
He is my patient, and I am ensuring that he will not die.
She breathes in and then just lets out all of the air in a single puff, um, before starting again. Well, after you make sure that he isn't going to die, then you come find me.
Haha. No.
Say it
Uh,
out loud.
she just shakes her head and storms on out
You! I call out.
Yeah.
to Lee Wan.
Yep.
I will have her stop right at the door.
If you need to speak to my patient, you are free to do so. If you need privacy, you are free to have it. To speak to my patient.
All right. I'll take privacy, and we'll just talk.
Good.
Just that at all.
I pat Javen on the shoulder. She wishes to speak to you.
So,
And I walk off back into my my quarters.
yep. Where undoubtedly you hear the noise of a snoring Kazunti, which is quite something. Dekoth, for his part, is also resting and attempting to recover.
Yeah. With his 9 broken ribs.
Yep. Oh, the things he must have said. Yeah. So Lee circles around for a moment, looking at you, Traven, waiting for the door to close. And once it does, yeah. So you want to explain um, at what point the universal translator failed, or did I use words outside of the whatever Klingon standard you've failed to pick up?
I look around the room. Dekoth and Woe look asleep.
Yep. And Woe is in the I believe the other room, or like in the office where Kresic is. The office kind of
Yes.
dual it's a dual use thing where it's also basically his quarters.
There was no miscommunication. There was no there was no error in language. I would know. I study languages. I'm gonna go on ahead and say, honestly, I owe this crew everything. Without them, I would still be stuck on that planet for who knows how many years, serving food to an ungrateful host and ungrateful soldiers. I had probably 2 people that wanted to eat my food. And as an artist, nothing hurts me to the core than seeing somebody eat 2 things of food and then just throwing it against a wall. And honestly, I trust them with my life at this point. I trust them with everything. And the fact that you're willing to be secretive, even though they're giving you a way out and not giving them a heads up, kind of crazy to me.
She's going to take one. She's going to go for the conventional Trek maneuver, going for the face palm, rubbing the 2 ridges between where her face kind of breaks into the darker sort of color pattern, and brushing aside her hair a little bit. Oh, this colony has been raided for months now, right on the verge of turning into a battlefield, and you're hung up uh, on on the culinary appreciation given by a handful of people that you're. Oh my god! You've been on the ship a day, Traven. One day, not even maybe at this point. And you're prepared to throw in with these people. I Has it occurred to you that this group of strangers here might not be the most solid bunch? Has it occurred to you that their ship is still their ship presently has power dampeners on it, so you are still stuck on this planet, and the fact that you haven't been torn off by the governor's guard is more a function of luck that they haven't bothered to conduct a deep scan? We are balancing on a knife's edge here, and whatever the the captain pulls next, which frankly, I don't know what he's going to do. I feel honestly lucky that we reached an impasse there a moment ago, but I don't know how long that's going to last, and how much longer before they try to start pulling stuff off of me. But there's a lot of people here that aren't just going to get to jump ship, Traven. It's a lot of people that could suffer based on if the word gets out here.
You can call me selfish all you want to, but what's inside me is more important than a lot of lives. I'm important. The experiences I need to have by the end of my life's journey need to be extravagant, not just some normal adventure that everybody else has. I have to have the adventure, the best adventure. When I pass this symbiote along, it has to have the full knowledge of a lifetime. I can't have that being stuck here. And honestly, you're right. I have been on here one day, but in that one day, I've been shown more respect, kindness, and loyalty than I have had for the past 5 years being here. When I was getting beaten by guards on a daily basis, the slaves didn't help me. They were too beaten down and hurt. But that's what I like about Klingons. That's why I like Tabok. That's why I like. Hold on, sorry. That's why I like Azek. That's why I like these people. They won't, even after they get beaten down and hurt, they still keep going. Y'all were shot at by who knows how many people, came back, 2 people almost dead, and he's still going. And not just for the sake of his ship, for his honor, for his people. If you can't trust that, there's nothing you can trust.
The one thing I can trust here, aside from the apparent impression that whatever situation this symbiote is in, that it is going to bend all of space and time, or at least your perception of it, around it as if you were the center of it, and that obsession with damned Klingon honor and whatever that whatever that really means. The one thing that I trust is that the Klingons are going to be Klingons, and that means that if the truth ever gets out to the extent that it is, good people are going to die. And I, I've got to look out for more people here because, you know, maybe I don't know if you know, I'll be frank. I don't care much for any of the Klingons here. Votos, he's a good man. The governor, he keeps things stable, I guess. He's a right bastard. And plenty of them just look down on us with disdain. But there's more than just those people here, and I'm not convinced even all of those Klingons necessarily deserve what could happen otherwise. Certainly, the other servants that are kept here don't deserve what'll happen otherwise. And if this doesn't get played out carefully, then many of them could get hurt. And you know, if you for the time you'd been for all the time you'd been here, I'm surprised that you don't even show an ounce of consideration to that. But maybe that's too much to ask.
The problem. That's the thing. I have no information. How could I have known that many lives were going to be killed? This is why I brought it to the captain. You can't do this alone. You have a group of people who are willing to help you. And if you have any information that could help us help you, now would be the time to use it. Haybok has a house. He can talk. He has the power to talk to people. And even if he can't talk to people, we'll do our best to help because that's what people do. It may not be the Klingons on this world, but I know everybody in this crew would be willing to help because they've helped me.
She nods and thinks about this. So, help myself then, you say?
Help us help you.
give me a command and presence roll.
Awesome sauce. Hold on
And
1 second.
I am going to expend 3 threat to increase your complication range to 3 for this roll.
Uh-oh.
So, for those of you watching here, a critical fail in this game is referred to as a complication, which, as I mentioned earlier, because of the way the dice rolls are flipped, that is generally set to a 20. The way that it works with the way that things work, the GM has the ability to expend threat, essentially tokens that allow me to introduce narrative complications, changes, buy additional dice for opposing characters, something of that sort. And one of those functions is that I can expend my threat in order to increase the range of critical failures. So by expanding it to 3 here, I essentially say that in addition to rolling a 20, someone could also roll an 18 or a 19 and that be considered a critical fail. So Traven is going to attempt to roll against Glie'daan here. This was a contested roll. The base difficulty is 1 or what Glie'daan scores here. So Traven, if you are ready, then we can do our roll off.
Would my conversation focus apply?
Yes, I will grant that here.
I will also be using my joined talent
Hmm.
to allow me to reroll 1d20.
Okay. So give it a roll.
Do it.
Oh god, I'm so glad I can reroll that.
Okay, so you have rolled
One.
you had rolled 2 zeros, one of which was a complication. But with the re-roll, you managed to score a single success, so you just match Glie'daan here. And actually, let me review that because I realize oh no, never mind. I was looking at the right thing.
Oh wait. Oh my god, I did the wrong stat.
Oh yeah, you rolled control and science there.
What was it?
It was actually presence and command,
Same
which
result.
yeah, it would be the same result there. So I will allow for that. Okay. I'll tell them what needs to be told for their safety or for ours.
May I see if she's telling the truth?
That will be insight and give me insight and command this time. And
Conversation focus. Do you want that to apply or no?
I don't think that would. I don't think that would apply in this case.
Gotcha. Woo.
Another match there. You have scored 2 successes, but so has Glie'daan, and that makes her pretty damn inscrutable. You are certain that what she has said, or like she's convinced of the meaning behind her words. But whether that means that, and like whether it means the truth or not, is another question. It is at this precise moment that in the medical office, Kresic, your comms line is open.
This is the doctor.
Oh, sorry, just double checking just to make sure that it was not in fact a reappearance of our captain here for a moment. Yeah, just to double check. Tabok, did you come back? Okay, no, never mind. Just remind him to hop out of the Discord in a bit. Um, oh, Mr. Doctor, I have need of your services.
As a doctor,
As as one whose medical skill may best facilitate interrogation, or I would at least like to have the option. Captain Tabok's voice betrays a hint of frustration as he, you have not known him long, but this may be a slight break from what he has resorted to in the past. Our Aaron Sen passenger knows more than she is letting on, and she has proven most intransigent. I don't suppose you have materials on hand that would, suited for her biology, of course, give us the ability to allow her to speak more freely.
I do have such compounds available.
And this would not do any permanent damage to her.
It will not, since I will not use them.
There's a beat of silence as those words linger. Am I to understand that you would not do
You
so?
are to understand that my function aboard this ship is as a doctor to help patients, not a thug to interrogate innocents. Doctor out.
But Tabok seems about ready to rejoin with a response here, but you slam the button down and knock the message out. And let's see here. I believe that I'm double checking here. We might have also lost Woe, but
We did.
Okay. Yep. She's just going to shift in her sleep, and I'm not going to attempt that accent again because, oh man, that was rough the last time. You'd just get a vague grumble of, get a room.
That was actually very good. Nice job.
Hey, I did it. And nothing else. Oh. Well, while all of that's going on, let's check back in on Raldar at this point. Or Azek. Which of you would like a scene right now? Who needs some character drama?
Well, I plan on. So I know I'm playing some, but if Azek wants to do something first, that's fine.
Go ahead and let Rolder do it.
Okay.
Alright.
Raldar, where are you? Would you have gone to engineering, or are you elsewhere on the ship? What's going on?
Well, getting the big monkey wrench, I went out to go and check out that fucking boot.
Oh man. Um, so we'll cut to outside of the ship. It took some time to scrounge together the exact powered gear that you needed. Ironically enough, you actually got some supplemental gear that would help you with exactly this task while you were in port. One of the pieces of equipment during the time that people were feeling more helpful. So it is something for you to. I'm sure it's something to at least mark as a slight irony. As you leave as you go to the lift from the main deck, or rather, you would be going from the subdeck since you probably had to find this in the cargo bay. You move to the lift and take the very short ride from the lowest deck of the ship, and have the elevator retract from what would be considered on this in a gravity plane like this, it would be considered the bottom of the ship or the ventral section. Flying on a two-dimensional plane is many conceptualize it. Um, as you step out into the light of the morning sun, you find that the port is steadily picking up with more activity. You're seeing signs of the many tentacled Thebans, one of the other servant races that were long since conquered by the Klingons. Um, the security presence has diminished a to a considerable degree. That is to say, it's not so concentrated around you, but you still see some guards ambling about the ship, uh, mostly with batleths, some with disruptors slung at their sides. You wouldn't put the number at more than 5, some closer to the ship and others a little further off. Um, but yeah, you come down lugging this large bit of powered equipment. One of the guards pays you mind. You there, go on.
Yes.
What? Explain your presence.
I worked on this ship, trying to repair it.
Well, we will not obstruct you continuing repairs. Please move along.
Well, all right then.
So, describe what Raldar goes to do next.
He just looking over the equipment over by the boot, and he's just giving it a look over. Is this something that's actually safe to touch, or?
Um, I mean, it is. There's not like it's not something that you would suspect would be remotely combustible. And there's always the possibility of a complication that could inadvertently overload or damage a system. It depends on, if you roll a complication, that's maybe a more of a resurgence of power, whereas proper removal would mean, you know, a steadier return or restoration of power.
All right.
No. One of the guards is just eyeing you right now, although they haven't taken action yet, probably not having pieced together your exact moves here. These are clearly not people with any great degree of engineering specialization, or maybe they are just presuming that you are surveying damage, which is, given the patchy nature of the Yon's hull, there's definitely plenty of it.
So Raldar's going to speak somewhat loudly. Why is the dampener still on?
We await orders from the governor's office and the guard captain to remove it. If you would like to see to its expedient removal, then your qualm is with them.
Well, call him and tell him that they have 5 minutes to get back on that, or I'm removing it myself.
They process that for a moment.
They've had many hours to contemplate this earlier already.
The moment that as the thoughts go across the Klingon guard's mind and the right neurons fire reflexively, he starts going into a more alerted mode, and he will. Let's see whether he goes daring or control on this. Better yet, we'll call this he is going to look you over, Raldar, and he thinks to his hand darts from Batleth to Disruptor for a moment, carefully pondering that, realizing the relative strength and I would say signs of it. Beyond the heavy equipment, would you be carrying any weapons, or better yet, do you still wear something similar to the Imperial Fleet's armor?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, he's going to take notice of that and realizing that you are not only likely well trained in the type of combat that in close quarter combat as would any good officer of the Imperial Fleet, and just the relative size and strength that you have on him, he's going to sling the Batleth and pull the Disruptor, setting it to an alert carry, but not yet aiming it at you. Steady there, Gorn. We can seek to open the channel and see where that is. However, you make a move without the approval, and I will send you on to Core.
I hope you do.
With that, he's going to bark out an order to one of the other guards who's going to start opening a comms line. So you are there momentarily in sort of a standoff as the guard like has his disruptor at the ready, charged, and fully prepared to escalate. Is there anything that you would aim to do during this time?
No, I think I'll just wait. Oh, I am down.
I gotcha. I am going to. I suppose I will give a quick roll here just to see if anything can be done to. Let's see. There's going to be a roll here for one of the soldiers in their attempt to figure out something. So moments are going to pass by, but that soldier fails completely. There's not a complication there, but oh man, that's an 18 and a 19 on the die. So eventually the other soldier is going to come back with a shake of the head and a few words, and the guard that has his disruptor at the ready. We are not prepared to do so as of yet. Return to your ship, and we will alert you when we have approval to remove the dampener.
Real shame.
He is about to start saying something. If you would like the chance to interrupt him with an action or words of your own, you may do so. Otherwise, he will attempt to do one small thing. Would you want to make the first move?
Oh, he just pushes the power button on the tool.
Oh dear. So the tool begins to activate. Are you just going in? Are you just preparing the device, or are you going in to perform the task to start removing the dampener?
I'm just turning it on. I'm not starting the task yet.
Okay. There's a audible whine and like steady hum as the device powers up, much to the alert of the one soldier. As he resists the urge to raise the disruptor, but his training's definitely telling him to pull it up. If you wish to attempt other repairs, or perhaps work to the ship's hull plating. That might be something I can arrange. These Phoebans here have they could be put to the task. I understand they were on it earlier before orders were passed down yesterday.
Well, I think I can agree to the re-addition of some extra hands to fix the outer deck.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would have to keep working on the internal systems, and I can't work on that until we have all our power back.
The Klingon very cautiously, still with his disruptor at the ready. So then, there is no need for you to do anything rash.
Oh, no. And Raldar will just, turn it off. It can be agreeable.
He will lower the disruptor further, setting it to one hand. Calls it Shagpui! And he'll wave over the Phoebans, a set of beings who are honestly like a central biological mass surrounded by tentacles, and with stalks that have eyes along them, look out towards you, and as the Klingon waves them over, they start to work. It says, "Provide this Gorn with the assistance he needs for to repair his hull plating only." And they look amongst themselves, their tentacles waving slightly for a moment before they start ambling over in your direction, Raldar.
Follow me. Let's get to work.
Mm.
Climb back up on what I assume to be the scaffolding.
Yep. And some heavy equipment is brought back online. We'll definitely say, Raldar, it was probably a better outcome than you'd expected, or at least one of the house guards appears to have his head screwed on marginally better than you were expecting. But I probably, if there's another look over your shoulder as all this goes on, he is talking quite a bit with one of the other guards, and the discussion is getting quite animated between the two of them. The exact contents of the words, though, are probably obscured by the sounds of heavy equipment operating as as you and your new impromptu repair crew start working at replacing pieces of the hull.
And yeah, we don't make this ship look nice.
Yep. If you would like, I will give you the opportunity for one small roll just to see how far you go with things. Like just as a one-off type roll. Otherwise, we can just leave it at that.
All right.
Would you prefer the roll right now, Raldar?
Yeah, I'd like to do a nice roll.
Okay. Just because you still have a fair amount of work ahead of you, I'm going to call this a control and engineering roll. The difficulty of this roll, however, is going to be the maximum to be considered like completely successful in however much time you work is going to be considered 4. Anything under that will still be some sort of success. You just, you wouldn't earn momentum from it, and it wouldn't necessarily, there'd still be work to do later, essentially.
All right. I'm willing to take this chance.
You want some momentum?
Sure, I'll take a point of
Just
point
one?
momentum.
Yep,
Yeah,
there's
just
Okay.
one.
still 3 points, so that would be enough to buy 2 extra dice.
I'll leave that for other people who will need it later.
There you go. I dropped a momentum on the
Fair
table
enough.
for you.
All right.
Thank you, Doc.
Ah,
Well, that's 2 successes, so that it's still slower work. You do not have the full array of personnel that you had initially when you arrived in port. However, this is a good bit towards accomplishing the repairs that you originally wished to do. And yeah, it leaves you the opportunity to at least patch a few more places in the hull. The work will be slightly slower, but you think that so long as you have relatively uninterrupted work, you might actually be able to do away with that last breach before the day's end. That being said, we are going to see how that goes. Well, we'll see where things go next with that. Before we cut off, is there anything else you'd want to do before the scene lets out?
no, I think I'm good.
All right, we'll shift over back to Azek again, um, who I will presume has stayed on the bridge.
Yep. Basically debating on whether I should contact the port authorities to try to get this boot off.
Yep,
But Kresik is taking care of that, sounds like.
or Raldar has rather.
Raldar, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still do it. Put some more pressure on them. Yell at them.
Blast
only
your
touched-
music at them.
I only talked to the stooge. You can be much louder. After all, how else are you going to get captain points?
This is true. I do need to work on my leadership skills.
Yes. If we're building towards the mutiny arc, then you need to start building up those loyalties now. Make some moves.
Mutiny Arc 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
Yeah, why not? I'll contact them.
Okay. After being given the runaround for I'd say somewhere along the lines of a couple hours or so, you do eventually get the office of the governor's advisor, a man that you had met the previous day, named Votos, an older Kohach. Just for the sake of the scene, would Azek be in the captain's chair?
Of course.
Spectacular. All right, so we'll first make sure, yep, we're on the bridge there. And Vopry looks to you and is like, channel now ready, Mr. Korg.
So, this is Commander Korg to the fine gentleman that we spoke to yesterday.
Has there been a change in your command structure, Mr. Korg? Or
We're
Commander?
Klingons. We're Klingons. It happens daily.
Oh. Well, then am I to believe that you have I regret then that I was not the one to drive the knife into Tabok of the House of Corn's throat, but
He's not dead. He's just off doing other things. I'm the one sitting in captain's chair. Therefore, I'm captain right now. I got a question for you. Well, two questions. Um, how soon can your people get these boots off? We got some vital repairs we want to get done with our ship, and they are holding us back drastically.
As if it were not insult enough what your cousin did the previous day to our guards. Now your captain does not even bother to come and speak with me himself on the matter. Very well, Commander Korg. You want a technical team there? Then I will route one as soon as can be made available. You can take your ship away and simply leave this planet, since you seem to have failed to have produced anything with regards to his offer to investigate.
It's, as far as I know, it's still a work in progress.
Oh, so then perhaps he says. Votos pauses for a moment. The one eye he has remaining fixed on you as he places his hands together. And then perhaps your captain has not abandoned us after all.
They have not told me that deviation from our original plan, which I believe was to help you. And as I know, Tabok's honor is true to his word.
Well, perhaps at least it can be said for the Klingons among your crew, I hope. To say nothing of that the Kazin is dead. That matter will have to be closed for now, and those words are better spent for your captain anyway. Very well, Mr. Korg. My
Okay, go ahead.
my I can see about that technical team. Perhaps once they get there, they can work with our engineer, Glie'daan, that we had tasked. She is also competent in such technical matters.
So, I had some time to think about our little encounter yesterday, and I didn't speak very highly of you. Some words were exchanged, and I think that I should my honor says that I should buy you at least around a drink at the local tavern of your choice, uh, basically to um, hash things out, as the pigskins would say. Um,
Pink skins.
Humans.
Ugh. I swear some days that their lexicon seems to infect us more and more.
Blame
let,
the internet.
let me tell you, Commander Korg, if this planet still stands and I still draw breath by day's end, then perhaps we can have that meeting.
Is there something going on that we can assist you with beyond the investigation that we've got going on?
Well, that may well be the highest priority. That said, if your ship is still as damaged as I understand it to be, I do not know it will make much difference. 2 birds of prey have been detected on approach to the planet. We have identified them.
It's
They,
not good.
they belong to House Kurath. Give me, Azik, an insight and command roll with a difficulty of 2, please.
Let's see. None of my focuses would help with this. Do you mind if I take a momentum?
Do it, good sir.
All right. I'm going to bump it up to 3 dice.
Okay. Oh
Ooh,
dear.
ouch.
Blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so with the 3 dice, you have scored 1 success. You, however, have also rolled 1 complication. So, you are presently out of momentum to, or rather, you do not have enough momentum to buy it off. Would you prefer to give the GM threat, or would you rather accept a narrative complication?
Let's do a narrative complication. Those are fun.
Very well. Well, Azik, I don't know how much attention you have paid to Klingon politics, but you probably know just enough to understand a bit of the fluctuations of the great houses. The custom at present given is awarded more on the basis of how the High Council is structured, of which there are 24 given seats essentially. But the houses, while some remain in roughly the same standing as they've always had, that is to say, there are some houses that have just always been on the council for as long as there has been a council based on their wealth or military strength. Uh, on some of the margins, sometimes that fluctuates a little bit. And in terms of the up and comers, that is where you would pit House Kurath. The extent of your knowledge with them would be that they are well on their way, if not already are at the point of being essentially the 24th Great House. They're known as something fairly ambitious, uh, certainly a military power, and one that has fought conflicts amongst some of the other houses, as has been the practice of late. They You don't know exactly where their status was, but they would have probably been already a pretty decent house with no need of patronage of a greater house of their own. However, they've been growing quite recently and are quite powerful now. So that is about where that about is as far as that extends, and the complication will come and play partially with what what Vatos says next.
Okay.
Yes. Two Kurath birds of prey are on approach, and they seem to have sped up quite considerably. We initially posted them as arriving at only a very modest, if even leisurely pace. However, in the at some point in the past evening, they began accelerating to near their top sustained speeds. They will arrive in a matter of hours, and with them, they would likely have the forces to mount an attack, as well as tactical capabilities that would well exceed our orbital capabilities. If they maintain, if they are here to press a claim on the colony, it is likely that they would win.
Is there any reason why they sped up? Was there any signals that went out that way to alert them of certain things, of something going on?
There is none that I've been made aware of. Uh, I cannot, of course, rule out the possibility that something exists, and maybe your captain has evidence of that. However, if that is, even if it is not the case, they were at the very edge of our range of detecting and confirming who they were. It is entirely possible that they simply decided, once they were in appropriate range, to increase their warp factor so that they could close the distance on us before we could properly identify the threat. They may not have complete surprise insofar as us being unaware of their approach, but now that we know who they are, it is likely they will get here before any of House Karuk's warriors arrive. We are on our own.
Well, you've as long as our ship's here, we'll help what we can. I'll have to speak with Tabok to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that stands.
He sighs, and he doesn't necessarily completely lose the good posture that he has. But from the moment that he's been on with you, he has been like fairly rigid, and he is still arguably sitting up straight. But there's maybe the slightest inclination that he lets his shoulders slouch just a very little bit. Once again, you volunteer your services, or someone on your crew does. I hope that we do not wind up having need of them.
Maybe
Likewise,
maybe it's just a peaceful envoy. Who knows?
uh,
But
Votos just snorts at that.
I,
I
I'm
hope
trying.
that
I'm Azek's just trying to lighten the mood with him a little bit. Kind of just playful banter with him.
I hope that if they are not here for peaceful relations, he says, the words coming out like very harshly, as if he is letting something deeply unpleasant slide off his tongue each time, or the words themselves come out very unnaturally. I hope that you prove to be better warriors than you are investigators or comedians.
Well, we shall find out over blood wine when all this is over.
Very well. Oh, and do have your captain speak with me then if he is still alive. I have words that must be said.
We'll make sure to relay that message. Appreciate the expediency on the our boots.
And Votos is going to. He will wind up cutting the line before you have the time to complete your things. To which Volpry looks around and is like, I do not wish to be on this planet anymore.
Kind of thinking the same thing.
Oh, Commander, may I say words that may come off as bold?
Just you and me. We're friends here.
Oh, very well. You are a very strange Klingon.
Been called worse. I appreciate that.
He just blinks and turns back to his sensors console, um, very much with the nervous energy of someone who isn't necessarily looking to get work done as he is distract himself from the circumstances to come.
Makes sense.
Yep. So elsewhere around the ship, before I go into what I think would make sense here next, would anybody wish to uh, move to a different scene here?
I would actually, if I'm able, like to track down where Lewan went.
Yeah. So let's see. At this point, looks like Lewan has just left the medical bay. As Traven did. We didn't lose Traven, did we?
We did.
Oh dear. Uh,
I'm still here.
comp. Oh, good.
Oh, he's alive.
Okay, thought I saw something in the
Not for
Discord for
long.
a moment. Yep. Um, I'll say that. Yeah, Lewan is just stepping out. Your conversation has ended very recently. Unless Traven, you had some other reason to try and keep her there, would you have tried to say anything else there. Hearing nothing, yeah, she will have just left.
Sorry, my microphone's been acting up.
Oh, okay.
I do tell her, so I know you don't want to be around me. That's fair. But Kresic does need to look at you.
And Kressica does walk back in, or back out from the office, as you see Glie'daan is preparing to leave. I'm sure that any medical tests can be run afterwards, Traven. I need to do this first.
Not gonna stop you.
Yeah, Kresic, after angrily cutting off your conversation with the captain, you are able to cut in here. And that's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
that's a lot of consonants there, folks.
Kresic is pissed.
Howdy.
So he is going to come out, turn to Traven. Leave.
Throw my hands up in the air. Oh, yeah, sure. Fair enough. I'll leave y'all to it. I'm gonna go clean some parts of the ship.
Yeah.
Y'all talk that out. And
Yeah.
I leave.
I'll leave too.
You will not leave.
The Ernson stops, more out of habitual deference, given her position. You also hear from the bed, Doctor, do I also have to leave?
No. And I walk over and I just up his morphine levels.
Leave.
Go to sleep.
Yes, don't want to aggravate those 10 broken ribs. What?
Excellent.
Yes. Okay. So Dekoth is taking a nap here.
I
19
turn to Luan. You know something.
Huh? I do. And I'll say it. I'll say what needs to be said, and things will be difficult for a moment, but they'll get better.
How bad is it?
Because of because Traven decided to say something before I was ready. Well, I suppose at the end of the day, it would have been hard anyway for someone to not die from this, but hopefully, with what I have to say, it will be the fewest amount of people possible, and only those that deserve it most.
I see. Then I will accompany you.
Very well. And no sooner do you say that than the medical bay doors open again. Um, and in steps Tabak. Ah, the two people I need to have urgent words with. And you seem to think that on this ship that just walking away is an option. So, which order are we going to do this in?
The order that will save the most lives.
Yeah. I'll agree to that. Captain Tabok, you want to know who was responsible for the for giving the colony's defense codes to the raiders? Who's behind all of this subversion and who's trying to make the governor look bad? Yes, that would very much be exactly what I need, and it would resolve, I think, everyone's problems here. Yeah. All right. Fine. Well, it's only there's only a handful of people who would have the codes necessary to do that, and well, simply put, it's the one person none of us would have thought to look at, because those codes belong to the governor himself. Say that again and more plainly. The codes belong to Jagren, Captain, the governor of this world. I don't know what possessed him to do it, but he's the one who's been using his codes apparently in order to bluff the censornet or force the changes and cover up his tracks. He's been sacrificing all of us for his own gain, whatever gain that is, whatever scheme he has in mind. I don't know. I just know what the data tells me. Good shot.
Is there any other way these codes could have been acquired?
Leiwan shakes her head. No. His codes are the ones that were being used, and he is the only person that could be responsible for this.
I'd like to insight check her.
Give me an insight and I would think that security would be the most apt.
Psychoanalysis focus?
Yes. Insight and security here. Or command would also work here.
I'll stick with security.
All right.
Let's see. All right, let's roll this.
So that will go against her command and presence. Okay, that is 3 successes. So roll for Leiwan here. As Tabok is taking all of this in, your own practice with these roughly what for audience purposes we will describe as humanoids has taught you a few lessons about physiological behaviors when they are under considerable amounts of stress and when they are attempting to employ deception versus when they are simply relaying information. For what it is worth, she is displaying signs of some degree of stress, which, based on the previous conversations and the captain's request earlier, would be enough to cause like some issue. But as controlled as she is, there is also a look to her that says very plainly that like some of that for some of that stress here, she is there's just a part of her that is tired of this situation and that is like just trying to get through it as best as possible. And to that end, you can tell that she is not being entirely truthful in what she says about this.
You are lying.
Leiwan casts a glance to you. Okay, hey, there might be some ways with someone sufficiently technically proficient, but I can say truly that I don't believe that there's any member of the staff capable of doing that, including myself. I doubt that I'd be able to pull off any similar sort of venture. But I can tell you that I can tell you honestly that Jagren is the main threat here, and that he is uh, he is essentially doomed the colony. I don't know why he's doing it, but this place would be a lot better off without him. So you can and I'm sure, she says, looking to both you and to Tabak, you can figure out what to do with that as you will. You know, you want to take the battle to him. You want to tell Votos. You want to tell the ships are here that are apparently going to be coming this way. Uh, you know, that's your problem at this point. But I've done what I can. I've given you what information I have.
And that is all the information.
Yeah, that's all I've got. The look from earlier does not seem to have completely gone away, Kresic. So I would say there's room for doubt at least, but without another check, it would be tough to be certain.
Luan. Damn the Empire. Damn these notions of honor. Damn this barbarism. We need to save the people. And we cannot do that if you are not telling us everything.
I am trying to save these people, Doctor. Uh, the if the I don't know, and frankly don't care much about the system that those Klingons use to govern themselves, but if this is what's going on, then surely there's some way that you can deal with this Jagran problem, or maybe that's even what the other Klingons are here to deal with. He's so dishonorable, then then getting rid of him would be the solution. That sounds like it simplifies the most things.
Simple is not true.
And I've given you the truth. What reason he has behind that, I don't know. I work with computers. I don't pretend to understand Klingons and their code of honor or what passes for it, whatever sort of self-interest. I don't care about that. I don't care about the Empire. I just want as many people in this world to survive as possible, because this is a lot of people. This is a lot of people's home. Plenty of us. You call it Zhegpui.
They do.
Well, those are. I know them as people that I've lived with. In many cases for years at a time. For years. Some as far back as my memory can stretch. Others that were brought here by force and have settled in. And if this can be handled by a simple squabble at the top, then that seems like the least bloody option to me. But frankly, I don't have much else. I don't know what else to give you here. I can only tell you what the module said. Doctor, you are certain that Leewan is being dishonest in this case?
I am certain that she is doing what she feels is best to protect the people, as anyone would do. However, solving this is not a matter of this is why I hate politics. The people will only survive and thrive if things are handled correctly. I need to know the truth. And I would like to try to do another check on her.
Are you aiming to persuade or intimidate her into...
Persuade.
Okay. So this will be a test against her control and command. For you, I think this will be presence and command.
I would like to use my determination
Okay.
for an auto crit using the value King's Fall, people endure.
A very good, roll here. Rather a good value to apply here, so I will grant you that point of determination.
And then how does everybody feel about me spending a point of momentum for this?
I'm down. Do it, Danny.
Yeah, go for it. I think that's the consensus.
All right. And then no focuses, I would imagine.
Yes, I don't believe so. And so that will be 2 successes plus the automatic critical success.
Oh wait, that was
will be a
I'm
total-
sorry, I did the wrong roll. That was insight security.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Let me see. What was I supposed to do?
it was actually presence and command.
Presence command. And how do I see what my rolls were?
So if you mouse over each of the numbers there,
Mm-hmm.
one of those was a 9, one of those was a 13, and another 9.
Both of the 9s would have succeeded. So
Okay. What would be the sum of your presence and command, just to double check?
presence is 8, command is 1.
All right. So, yep, those would have just succeeded. So 2 successes plus the automatic critical success for the total of 4 successes rolled against Leewan's control and command. I'm trying to make the most correct decision. You think that this world's going to be better off if Shalgren remains? Think that whoever's coming wouldn't want to get rid of him anyway? You do incidentally gain back 4 momentum from that roll.
I'm having a hard time dealing myself momentum.
Yeah, I got you covered.
Okay, perfect. I think that leaving anyone in power who is willing to sell people into slavery for their own good is just as bad as an inept leader, if not worse.
You've probably noticed this whole time, Kresic, but the Aronson woman, her face has gotten harder as the look has gotten just more difficult. You can tell that there's like a great deal of stress and pressure from the way she carries her face, and you'd guess at this point that the species might have tear ducts, unlike the Klingons.
I am a doctor. I save people. I will not allow this to harm the people.
It's a shame, she says quietly. Guess you're right about that. Damn it, he's an honorable man otherwise, or at least if it were him over this, then this wouldn't have happened in the first place, and maybe our lot would have been better. All right, Doctor. You think the truth will heal this dispute or help this colony? Then fine. Jagran, he is inept, and he is callous, and he does nothing for this world. He sits here resentful of all of us, Klingon and Shigpui alike. But he doesn't have whatever cunning or necessary drive there is to do this. He's content to sit out his days and eat and eat whatever Traven prepares for him, and maybe one day hope that someone would work up the nerve to challenge him otherwise. But he's not the one behind this. Or at least his codes were not. No, those codes actually belong to Votos. And I was about ready to try and adjust the telemetry on that module, but I didn't have time to do it yet. So you want the proof? I can tell you frankly, Doctor, it's there, and it's ready for me to just hook it in and show all of you. And a man who, up to that point, I considered honorable, up to the point that he let those people get kidnapped, the one person who might treat us decently here, I'll probably die for it. But you know what? That's your decision. Because I'll give you that information, but then I want nothing more to do with that. Only for you to make that promise that whatever you see through, you'll damn the Klingon Code of Honor, you'll damn the Empire, and you'll save as many people as you can here.
That is all that I do.
And as those words draw off your lips, Kresik, Tabak, who has observed this whole conversation, looks as though he has much to mull over. And that what he decides to do, we will find out next week on the next episode the next session of Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword. So for those watching on the archive, we hope you enjoyed, and we are going to cut out for this evening. If you ever want to catch us live, we run Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so feel free to drop in at Twitch/GM in the Great Barrier, or twitch.tv/GM in the Great Barrier. It should be in the video description, so give it a check out, give us a follow, and we'll see you around. So this is where we will stop for now. You all have a good night.